Without a shadow of a doubt, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Warzone and tell you thank you for taking the time out to tune in because without you, I would not have a show. So I need you to get on the phone and call somebody and tell them that the great one is in the building, five-star general, and I got a special guest tonight. If you're from Houston and you ain't been living under a rock, you know who this man is. He's a 2 decade, almost a 3 decade employee of the Houston Independent School District. One of the greatest science teachers to ever do the damn thing. My good friend Larry McKenzie. What's happening, man?
Nothing much, man. Just sitting down watching a little television.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, the elephant in the room is the state takeover. What is your ideologies on a state takeover? What do you think is going to come from it? Do you think it's going to be successful? And then we'll dive deep into this thing tonight.
All right. Well, I think the state takeover is all about privatizing public education, and I think that TEA is going to come in and they're going to make a statement. They're going to try to do something big and bad, but they can't afford to look like they fail at it. So they won't. They'll probably get rid of some people and come back and put everybody back in power before the next school year.
Okay. Now, I know, in case y'all don't know, I got into being an advocate a long time ago, and this was one of the good dudes that along the way that kind of laced me to the game of how it needs to go. Now, I will tell you this in front of him. He's a quiet version of me. He's a silent killer. He's a quiet version. But the man know everything that needs to go on in a classroom. You were a member. I don't know if you still are a member of the Houston Federation of Teachers for a long, long time. And if you guys have questions for Larry tonight, ask the questions, and I'll post them up there, and he'll be glad to answer them. He is a almost 3 decade. How many years, Larry?
Going on 27 years.
27-year employee of the Houston Independent School District. So you've gone through a few superintendents in your time.
Yes, I have.
You've gone through. Name a few that you've gone through.
Huh. Rod Page, Abel Saavedra, Terry Greer, Carranza. I forgot the lady's name. And now Millard
Dr.
House.
Lathan. Dr. Lathan.
Dr. Lathan. I'm talking about the Caucasian lady.
K. Stripling.
Kay Stripling. That's it.
Yeah. So you've been through 7 superintendents. And that is crazy because that's only an average of about, 4 years
Yep.
on an average. But Greer had the longest tenure, I think. I think Greer was here for about 8 years. And in that Greer tenure,
Yep.
what was it like to be a teacher during that time, man?
Yep.
What was it like to be a teacher during the time of Terry Greer?
Oh, Terry Greer was Adolf Hitler. He used to come in and curse principals out and curse SSOs out, curse SIOs out, intimidation. He was the big bully.
Well, you know what's amazing, man?
What's
After
that?
y'all going through all that stuff with them big bad bullets, why you think everybody got a problem with Gary Monroe being the bully, but standing up for teachers and kids?
Well, I tell you what, the expectation is for there's two big differences between Gary Monroe and Terry Greer. Terry Greer is about 5'11" and he's Caucasian. And Gary Monroe is about 5'8", 5'9", and he's black.
Man, you being so generous. I'm only 5'4", bro. You being generous, bro. I appreciate it though.
So the height didn't make much difference, but the skin tone makes a difference. And they hired Terry Greer to do what he did.
Now you know what I've always liked about you. I actually love about you is that you're not afraid to speak up. Whether it's at a board meeting, whether it's at a HFT meeting, whether it's standing on a street corner protesting, you have never been afraid to speak up. And during the course of your 27 years, you have been attacked. You have lost your job. So my question is why do you continue to speak up and become a target when you don't really have to go through all that?
Well, you know, when you're black, you're born a target. So, and as long as I feel like I'm telling the truth and doing what's right, then God will take care of me. So, and I mean it like I said it.
Well, you know what? In case y'all don't know, man, Larry's a proud graduate of Ross Shaw Sterling High School. And he's a graduate of the Prairie View University, Prairie View A&M University. And I just wanted to throw that out there for all them Prairie View alums that like to watch the show. He represents you guys very, very well. Now, let's take a deep dive into this thing, man. Now, this is not personal with me because I'm going to say some things that are not reflective of how you think. So, you know, I need people to understand that my thoughts are my thoughts and Larry's thoughts is his thoughts. I don't like Millard House on a business level. I don't know him on a personal level. But as a superintendent, I deem him a failure because after 20 months, I've not seen anything that he's done for children. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and I've asked people this before on this show, what rating would you give him?
Well, I tell you what, I would have to give him a 4.5 because he did help me get a little boy back into school. And I sent him an email, and the little boy's back in school, and the little boy's aunt is happy. So he's done that, and I can't take that away from him. But as far as communicating with me by email or any other sort, he hasn't. And I go to all the meetings. I go to the town hall meetings. I go to the board meetings. I do all of that, but they don't call me for whatever reason.
Well, you know, I know you're very active over at your alma mater, Sterling. When is the last time he visited your alma mater?
I have not seen him visit Sterling. I have heard that he visited one time, and someone sent me a text, but I haven't seen him visit.
Now, we'll go into this takeover thing. Takeovers, and I've been researching all day because I want to make sure I give out the right information. Historically, have not been the best thing to help close the achievement gap or get test scores up all across the country. Is this the right time to do a takeover?
It's the right time for those with the agenda to privatize public education. Well, as a matter of fact, any time is the right time for them, because what they're going to do is they're going to huff and puff like the big bad wolf, and they're going to take over and they're going to get rid of a couple of people. But when that new school year starts, they're going to turn control back over because they are not prepared to manage a school district with 196,000 students. They're not ready. And that means there are voters, and it'll be transparent. They wouldn't do a good job.
I don't think they're going to be successful. And I agree with you. I think that the district is just too big for them to be successful. This is not a little rural district. This is not Beaumont with 9 or 10 schools. This is 270 something schools, 196,000 kids with a high special ed population and saturated with poor kids, Black, Latino, wherever they come from. And I just don't think that they have the wherewithal, and I don't think they understand what they're getting into. Because even if their intentions were good, HISD is so messed up to where you got to come in here. It's going to take you about a year or two just to be able to get it to where you can make it function right. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think that they're going to be successful, but I also think that even if they take it over, they're going to give it back quick
That's
because
right.
they're not going to want to deal with this, man. It's too much. And then I think at that point, if things keep going the way that they're going, they'll look at trying to shut the whole thing down because it's a lot of corruption. Now I noticed, are you still in HFT or are you in a new union?
No, I'm still in HFT.
Okay, so you're still in HFT. I see you guys are having a protest tomorrow at 9:45 a.m. with Sheila Jackson Lee in front of the administration building.
Right.
What sense does that make to have a protest where you say you need teachers and students and parents at 9:45 in the morning? What type of statement is that going to make?
Well, that's one of the issues I have with HFT. Oftentimes they do things and they don't have the actual teachers out there. They have the people that are at the office. And that way the teachers don't actually know what's going on. So it's the type of communication thing. And it doesn't make any sense. It does not. So you're absolutely right.
Now, 1882, I think it's Senate Bill 1882.
Yep.
And then we have 1842. Um, those are the bills that right now have the Texas Education Agency in a position to take over the school district. But the problem that I have with it is when these bills came about, when this thing first popped off in 2015, when Dutton wrote the bill, there were several prominent African American politicians in the city. Every one of our representation from a state legislative standpoint signed off on this bill except for two people,
Yep.
Armando Wale and Garnett Coleman.
That's right.
That means that Boris Miles, who was a state senator, he endorsed it. That means whoever were the state reps, the Alma Allens, the Sinfronia Thompsons, they voted for the bill. You see what I'm saying? They actually voted for the bill. But you being a member of HFT is having a protest tomorrow, and I'm confused because when I looked at the records from when it was in the committee, HFT spoke in favor of the bill. So I'm trying to figure out, they spoke in favor of a bill that they're now saying is going to kill the school system. Were you aware of that?
Absolutely. I'm hoping and praying that maybe they just figured out that they should make a U-turn and support what's right and not what's right now. I understand what was going on at the time, and they were trying to curry favor, and they were talking about gerrymandering the different state representative districts and trying to keep people in there because they had the longest tenure. But now, hopefully, they're going to try to do what's right as far as HFT instead of being in the bed with Houston ISD, and we'll take it one step at a time.
Well, a lot of people are saying they shouldn't take over. And when I ask the question, I always ask them, why shouldn't they? We've been dealing with corruption. You've got people going to the federal penitentiary for stealing money from the kids. You had a board that was totally out of control, totally racist, totally dysfunctional. I don't believe that it takes 10 years to get Wheatley out of our. Nothing was invested into the school, Cashmere or Wheatley. And even old Wortham was over there struggling. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, the lawsuit was filed. And at that point, they filed a lawsuit to stop the takeover. So people are asking me how I feel, and I'm going to ask you how you feel. I embrace the law. I embraced the Constitution. I embraced the Texas Constitution. But more importantly, I embraced the law that's in place. So the thing is, if they file the lawsuit to stop it, that means everything stopped. And then the pandemic started. So, of course, we couldn't do anything during that time. But as soon as it was over, and then they end up in the Texas State Supreme Court, they say, well, no, TEA wins this lawsuit. So I'm trying to figure out why people have a problem with the process starting where it stopped. How do you feel about that?
Well, I tell you what, I believe in following the law. Okay. But the issue is that the law was inequitable from each school. I mean, if you look at the schools that we've had since 1998 all the way up to 2012, 78 schools have been closed, and 73 of them having been Area 2 and Area 4. That's the north side of Houston and the south side of Houston that are predominantly black. And all of this was because of the law.
So you telling me during that time that no white schools were closed?
No. I'm not
All
saying
black and brown schools.
I'm saying 73 out of the 78 were black schools.
Wow.
In Area 2, that's the Northeast, and Area 4, which is 3rd Ward, South Park, Sunnyside. So I'm not saying that there were no white schools, but seeing that, African Americans are only 12.7 of the population, for us to be 67% of the schools that were closed, is something wrong with that. And the laws and the city ordinances and the county laws and everything that it took to do all of that, those were laws too. Just because it's a law, it doesn't make it right. So the problem now is that we're about to follow the law and we're about to hurt the students. Everything was created for, if you remember, at one time there were only lawyers and architects on this HISD Board of Trustees. They didn't have any teachers. And then the teachers that they put on there have almost sold us out. So the problem I have is yeah, I could follow the law, but let's do what's right this time instead of trying to follow the law that was placed there so that our schools would continue to be inequitable and unequal.
Where do you think we would be? Because I think me and you both would be in our second, I'd be in my second term. You'd probably be in your third term. Where do you think we would be if Gary Monroe and Larry McKenzie had made the school board like we should have?
You know what, it'll be a lot less wrong and a lot more right, because everyone passes through the school board so that they can continue their political aspirations, and they end up in different positions. But the whole thing is that most of the people that were on the school board weren't there for the students. They were there for themselves. So it would be a lot further along. It would be a lot more transparent. The community would actually be involved. That's where I think we would be.
I think we wouldn't be in this position.
No.
I don't think we would be in this position because neither one of us would sit quiet in closed session. You got your way of giving them the business. I got my way. But in a professional setting, I know how to handle myself. But there's no way that I would have sat back in District 9 and allowed Wheatley to keep failing in District 2. It wouldn't have happened. I would not have allowed Cashmere in District 2 to keep failing. I would not have allowed Worthing to keep failing. I think we would be in a far better place if we put people in the positions that have the expertise and the passion. And that's just not the school board, city council, anything. If we put people in the positions that they rightfully deserve to be in, we probably would not be going through all of this stuff. Now, I'm pretty tough on the local politicians, especially the African Americans that represent my community, and they represent your community to a certain degree. Why they so damn quiet right now?
I think they're planning, and I think Abbott has most of the politicians over a barrel, and they can't do anything, and because they can't do anything, they have to find new ways to approach this. So if Abbott is, and I'm a Democrat, but he is making a target out of Harris County and the city of Houston, and now he has inroads by having HISD being taken over by TEA, which is an entity where he appointed the commissioner. So and then we got people on the board that are not really educators, are not really advocates or education advocates or education activists. So he really has us in a precarious position. So I think they're planning. I'm hoping they're planning, but in the same token, nobody's called me yet. So obviously they're not planning that hard.
Well, can we actually? This is a real question. Can we actually blame this on Abbott, Dan Patrick, and Mike Barath? Because prior to them getting in the office, this foolishness was already going on. Can we blame these people, or did HISD put themselves in a position to be taken over after all these years with all the wrong that they've been doing?
No, Patrick and Abbott and Morath can't get all the blame. And that's just being straight up. But the greed of the people that have been in those political positions also have allowed this to happen in HISD. So they get some of the blame also. And then the apathy in those that vote is they act like it's a popularity contest, and they have people that are actually running for the position who are actually already working, and they're running against people who are just giving them promises. And that's part of the reason that the apathy in our community has caused some of these problems. So it's enough blame to go around.
Well, what I want to do, I want to read State Senator Boris Miles' official statement on the TEA takeover. I've been voicing my unwavering opposition to the potential state takeover of HISD for years. The situation at HISD that initiated the takeover has changed drastically. From the voters overturning the Board of Trustees to improving academic performance district-wide, HISD is on a new track of success. The school that initiated this process, Wheatley High School, has come a long way and is now out of improvement required status and has been making strides on student success. We need to face the facts. Historically, state takeovers have failed to improve school district financially or academically, and they come with a hefty price in terms of money, resources, and staffing. The fact that our public education system isn't fully funded begs the question, can the state even afford to do this? In addition, the timing of this is also bothersome because a state takeover would mean major disruptions in the middle of a school year as students are preparing for the STAR test, not to mention the numerous other problems that come with a takeover. Hold on a second. Let me pull it up a little bit. I have been working tirelessly to ensure HISD continues down its path of success while working with stakeholders and state and local leaders. The local community changed the leadership at the ballot box, and that the leadership set a new direction. Superintendent Millard House took the helm of HISD in 2021 and has made momentous improvements that have resulted in schools improving and students succeeding. The fact of the matter is that HISD students are scoring at a completely as competitively as other students in Texas. HISD overall TEA rating score is higher than the average Texas school district like Dallas ISD, San Antonio, and El Paso. Let's keep the train moving without costly obstacles to hinder HISD's progress. Now, what I want to do, he said, Millard House has made momentous strides. He's doing a super great job. Boris Miles, you a goddamn lie. You're so disconnected from the actual problem. Millard House ain't did a goddamn thing. Millard House and his team, right now, you are a science teacher. And this goddamn curriculum that they using, these kids ain't grabbing this stuff, Larry. If I get it wrong, you tell me. They're not grabbing this stuff. Ain't no strides being made. Yet there's some questionable things like growth from a F to an A in 1 year. Ain't that much goddamn growth in the world. It's a whole bunch of cheating. It's a whole bunch of cheating that could have went on. You feel what I'm saying? But I think at the end of the day, TEA didn't give a damn if they cheated because they already knew what they wanted to do if they win the lawsuit. I think that Boris is disconnected and he does not know what the hell he's talking about. So it comes at a hefty cost. We got $1.6 billion in COVID relief funds. And Rick Cruz was over that 1.6 billion at your school, and we won't name it. How much of that 1.6 billion made it to your school?
Not very much. So one thing you have to realize is TEA is over the STAR testing, and you have vendors that provide the test. So whether people realize what's going on is that, one, they have already been dumbing our kids down by using an objective-based test instead of a norm-based test like the SAT to prepare our kids to either go to college or get a trade. But they removed all the trades. So TA is not going to stop doing whatever they need to do to keep the STAR test going because those are their friends. So, my school hadn't gotten any money. As a matter of fact, they divided my school and made it into two schools. And then we got Harper over there with a principal that doesn't know how to principal.
Well, hold on, man. You telling me your school ain't got no money out the 1.6 billion?
Oh, yeah, we got things to disinfect. We got
y'all might have got some extra cans of disinfectant.
Things, masks and gloves, but as far as any substantial amount of money, no. Matter of fact, we're at a 60-year-old school. So
now he says in his letter that the HISD voters changed the trustees at the ballot box. Boris, you're damn lie. They had no choice but to vote for somebody else because the trustees that got the hell up out of there, they running from something. To me, they were running for some of them. So I think they were running from them federal indictments. So yeah, you think about all the years that you've been here. Have you ever seen us change out 9 trustees? Well, realistically, change out 7 trustees in 2 election cycles?
No.
They running from something.
Well, they may be running, but what you have to realize is they made such a big stink with the walking quorum, and they've had so many protests where people have been drug out of the board meeting that it wasn't the people's fault. It was the trustees' fault. Mm-hmm. It didn't take a PhD to figure out that the people causing the problem were the people that were on the board.
Well, let me say this, because all of what you're saying is true. We got corruption. We got, board meetings on fire. You got a superintendent fired in the middle of a board meeting. You try to bring back Abe Saavedra. You did a walking quorum, all that. So let me see if it's the same. Let's say I commit a murder. right? I'm going to court. But all of a sudden the pandemic starts, so we can't go to court. So should my case go away once the pandemic is over, or should they start from right there? So with all this that's been going on, you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We were where we were. We knew they were coming. So now everybody's screaming that it shouldn't happen. Those that are screaming, and you know what I don't respect? The ones that are screaming that never show up at a board meeting. And that go for some of you fucking draws politicians too. Y'all don't show up at no board meeting advocating for us. You don't advocate for our poor children. You feel what I'm saying? You don't advocate for our poor children. Now all of a sudden, I think, and this is what I feel in my heart, that they want the state not to come in because it's finna fuck up the church's money on a bond. And they make their money off them bonds and they friends getting them contracts. So they don't want the state to come in here because they know if the state come in here, the bond is dead. And if they do pass a bond, it's going to be so much oversight over the money that they ain't going to be able to get none. So I don't have any respect for these people right now. And like, you know, you got your opinion on the state takeover. I think it's time to exterminate the damn house. And the only way you're going to clean up HISD, you got to get them rats out of 4400 West 18th Street.
Well, I'll tell you what, it does need to be cleaned out. I don't see the state staying that long. I mean, if they come in with a big brush and some rat spray, roach spray, they're not going to stay that long because they don't want to fail. We've had, I've been doing this since 2005, advocating for education. And now it's 2023. This is 18 years later. And nobody's trying to clean up, fix, or do any of that. So, I think the whole thing for allowing TEA to come in is that it'll scare people. And then people will say, you know what, we might need to pass a bond so that we can get all new stuff. We can get new people, we can get new buildings, we can do all that stuff because, you know, they don't motivate people by what's right. They motivate people by fear and by anger.
But why would we vote for a bond to build new schools when we know if there's a takeover, they're going to close schools?
Here it is. When was the last time a bond failed? Yeah, you listening like I'm listening. So the same people that are making the same money, whether they be Democrats or Republicans, they're still architects and lawyers. They benefit from a new bond.
Mm-hmm. So you're a teacher. Do you think that a TEA takeover will create a greater teacher shortage than what we have right now?
If you want to scare people, this is the way to do it. So if TEA takes over and they start changing all of the higher administrators, you know, HISD is already top heavy, and they change those people, and those people make it more difficult for teachers to do their job, then what happens is those teachers that are present in HISD will either go to a different district or they'll go to charter schools. Now, one of the hidden agendas is the privatization of public schools.
Speak on it.
So if you have more charter schools, now please realize I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. But if charter schools work so well, then they'd be in the more affluent communities like River Oaks, Tangawild, and the west side of Houston. So if you have more charter schools, then our students wouldn't do well because charter schools get a chance to cherry pick their students. And it also lends to vouchers, school vouchers, which will allow those monies to be sent to private schools, which our kids, brown and black kids, would never get a chance to go to.
I keep trying to tell people that, man.
So,
it doesn't matter if they give you a $10,000 voucher. The tuition is $20,000.
That's right. And they'll only
so where's
get
the poor parent going to get an additional $10,000 from?
They don't. and then the school gives scholarships to the students that they want. That's the game. But everybody that is not affiliated don't understand. And we've had people that have taken over charter schools, or our people in our community that have had charter schools and have done poorly, have been poor stewards of the monies that they received. Now it's harder to get a charter for schools that actually make a difference, like say BMI or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we already have an in-district charter system, and that's with Energize for STEM.
Yep.
And that in itself is corruption at its finest. You know what I'm saying? It's not working the way that it needs to work. They even ran a ghost school. I don't know if y'all know that, but they changed some student ID numbers, and they were getting paid for a school that didn't exist. And HISD knew that. All this is in the middle of TEA wanting to take over. All this has been exposed. And I don't think the charter thing is gonna work, because, for example, you have a KIP charter school across the street from Woodson, right?
Yep.
And okay, if you close Woodson and turn it into a charter, how that's gonna work when you got one right across the street? I don't think it's going to work. I just don't. Our children are in a bad place right now, and that's why I don't agree with Boris Miles of how well Millard House has done. He's been here 20 months, and I'm gonna ask you a question. You might laugh. Does it hurt the piss out of you that he's still reading off an iPad after 20 months?
I'm just glad he's reading.
Say that again.
I'm just glad that he's reading.
Yeah, well, our kids can't read.
That's right.
Our kids can't read. So if you need, the question now becomes, and I'm gonna ask you because you're very, very involved. How do you fix a failing school?
Well, it starts with the teachers, and you pay the teachers their worth. And then you bring people in that have demonstrated, if the same way that they do principals, when principals get sent to schools that are known to mess with careers or whatever, they pay the principals more money so that they can do well. They don't do that with teachers. The hard to teach or the hard to staff schools, the Cullens, the Addicts, the McReynolds, the Sugar Grove, all of these places, you just can't make them a rise school and then give them extra money. You have to take the other schools that are not doing as well also, and don't make them a rise school, but just give them more money. I mean, it's easier to teach at a Lanier or a Milan or a Persian. So the thing is we just put more money at the bottom than at the top. It's like a tree. When you feeding a tree, you water the roots. You don't water the leaves. So that's how you do it. And then you have to interact with the community and see what the community wants and provide those services. I mean, all of the schools that had trade programs that were in the brown and black communities have been taken out. Everyone doesn't go to college. And then just a year and a half ago, they passed a federal infrastructure law. That's about to be billions of dollars that are going to be sent to these communities to recreate these bridges and roads and everything else. We need to be able to provide those jobs for the people so that they can have a job, a career that they can raise a family with, if that's what they choose to do. So the issue is that they put all of the good programs on the west side of Houston.
That's what I was finna touch on. Our schools are failing. We're constantly telling you that you've taken all the trades out the schools. You've taken all the viable programs out the schools. You put us under a microscope. You tell us we're not doing well. But then when you go to the west side, all the programs that we're screaming that we need, they got them in their schools. But you telling us our kids need to come out of our schools and go to Houston Community College to get the same certifications that they giving the kids on the west side.
Yep,
Your thoughts on that?
it's been happening. And where you have good schools, you have parents that have kids that can go to those schools. So, and it reaches all the way into the land grab. If you don't have good schools in the area, then people move out. And then when people move in, the desired people move in, then they start putting better schools in that community. So the exactly what you said is, we need more trades. We need more people that are being paid well to do that type of job. It doesn't matter. I work in secondary DAP, and we work with the hard to teach kids. But they pay a stipend for the GT kids, but they don't pay a stipend for the hard to teach kids. And the teachers all over HISD love what we do because we take their headaches and we keep them for 45 days and we give them conflict resolution skills. Now, some of them take it and some of them don't. But if they didn't lead that class, then they would disrupt and distract that class for the next 9 weeks. So HISD, the priorities for HISD is not what it should be. Instead of prioritizing and putting people in different positions that are their friends, they should put people in there that can do the job and actually care about the communities that they're working for.
I felt I've been in this game 14 years, nowhere near where you've been in it, but for my 14 years, I feel that HISD has been running a segregated school district. I feel that they have been running a segregated school district. There's always excuses as to why we can't have something on the south side of town, on the northeast side of town. It's always a reason why we can't have what we need to fully educate our children or put them in a position to succeed. And then our kids have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and jump on buses to go across town to get a quality education. How do you feel about our children basically, to a sense, being forced bust to get a quality education?
That sets a bad precedent. That sets a bad precedent to where that goes to say we have food deserts, education deserts, we have all kind of deserts. We have to leave our own communities just to get the basic things for life. And I still blame HISD for those students that died on 610 over Telephone Road when the bus went off of the bridge because they had.
Janicia Chapman.
That's right, they had to be bused to a school, and those students and their friends and their family attended colored middle school that I used to teach at. So I was familiar with those students, and I came to the board meeting and I said, and I spoke to that because people being greedy are killing kids. People being greedy are killing communities. People being greedy are killing dreams and hopes. And now we have people that can't read, and they're beginning to build new prisons for our students because they don't have trades in school, so we can't work, and everyone's not going to college.
Kid get to the ninth grade, reading on the second grade level. I'm not talking about 20 years ago, y'all. I'm talking about right now. Why are our children not able, once they get to middle school and high school, not able to read on the levels that they need to read on?
Because of the teachers that they put in there. You have to realize they do research with our kids. When they did the whole thing where they hired a Teach for America, and these kids come in and they get a contract for 2 to 3 years, and they got the content. I have to tell you, I've seen it. They got the content, but what they don't have is they don't have the ability to connect with the students that are there. So they leave after 2 or 3 years, and our kids are left with a loss, and they don't know how to speak. They don't have a background to speak to the kids that are there. And all of our good teachers that are brown and black realized that, like in 2009, we had a reduction in force. We had 700 teachers that were let go by Savadra. And in 2011, we had 900 teachers that were let go by Terry Greer. Now, somebody will tell you that all of these people were hired back, but that's a lie. Now we have a lack of teachers. We don't have enough teachers in the communities that need the most teaching. So, my whole thing is we need to teach the least, the last, and the left behind, and put as much money into it as we do for the students that are going to the Stanfords and the Harvard. Because in the end, in 20 years, those people that are not working will be robbing those people that are. I can't hear you.
I think at this point we're graduating more boys to the street corners and the dope game, and more girls to the stripper poles than we're getting to go to TSU and Prairie View. A lot of these kids are not going to go to college. They're not going to go. And that's why I've been on HISD for years in regards to teaching entrepreneurship. I really think that we need to start teaching entrepreneurship and financial literacy in our school system. We really need to do that because these kids have to understand what happened to the damn co-op program. I think that they're graduating our kids and they're teaching them at a level to make sure that the lower level workforce is always saturated with enough workers. How many times have you gone to McDonald's or Burger King or Kentucky Fried Chicken and you've seen kids that you taught? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
How many Fortune 500, companies hire our kids? So they're doing this on purpose. And at the same time, they've created something that they can't control anymore. They've created a gang culture by closing down these black schools in these communities. So I think if they come through with the charter thing and think this is going to work and it don't work, they're going to destroy these black communities because the school is the hub of the black community. It used to be the school and the church, but now the school is the only thing. When you think of Fifth Ward, you think of Phyllis Wheatley. When you think of South Park, you think of Ross Shaw Sterling. When you think of Third Ward, you think of Yates. You see what I'm saying? But those three schools are being starved of the resources that they actually need. So that's why for somebody like House to come in who had a whole lot of promise when he came in that could have made the difference, this is where I say he failed at. Because I get it with the Bel Airs and Lamar. Every time you look up, the rich get richer and the poor schools get nothing. You're a big baseball guy. I mean, you got a set of kids over at Yates right now that need $450,000 to get some turf laid, to put down a decent football field for them. But yet we got to beg and scream for it. But yet at Bel Air, that baseball field is supposed to be $2 million. The price tag on that thing is damn near $5 million now. And they ain't had a problem giving those kids anything that they wanted. But our kids, we have to beg and plead and, steal from Peter to pay Paul. And this is what our principals go through on a daily basis. You work at the alternative school. What can we do as a community, as a school district, to curb the violence that they're hiding that's going on our school campuses?
Well, I'll tell you what, the way you work with it, and it's actually a pretty good model. At Lamar, they still have a program called the Bridge Program, and different offenses are treated at the school. But you have to realize that Lamar has the resources to hire teachers to effectively teach those students better conflict resolution skills. We barely have enough people to teach the kids that we have. If you go to the schools that are in the at-risk communities, you have classes of 25 to 32, whether it be in a brown community or a black community. So that's the difference. And what we need to do is to reach these kids They throw money at everything else. They get contracts and they have all these rise schools and give them all things that they need to do. Let's cut some of those positions for the higher administrators, or at least put those higher administrators on the campus and let them teach one class or two classes a day, since they're so good. And we'll keep it moving and add more trades. See, kids will learn stuff they want to learn. You If you taught a child how to fix a lawnmower in middle school like they used to do, and how to fix an engine in high school, and when they get out of high school, they have a career. There's a difference. But see, they know that you have to have a permanent underclass, and
Exactly.
they're creating that permanent underclass. And I'm not just gonna blame Abbott and Patrick and Marath. Throw the politicians that are taking money, uh, lawyers and architects. They're not trying to do right by the students. They're trying to do right by their pockets.
Say, man, you hitting some key bullet points tonight, my brother. You hitting some key bullet points. Our kids are in a bad situation right now. And I think that the chickens are gonna come home to roost on this thing. I think that at this moment, according to Jolanda Jones, who tweeted out yesterday that she spoke with Marath, and from what she gathered, it was either two choices: either close Wheatley or take over the school district. If that was your decision, what would you do?
I'm gonna tell you something. The man that created the problem created the whole law is a Wheatley alumni. And I told him in a meeting in 2019, I said, you're going to be upset because it's going to be your law that causes them to close Wheatley. Now, the thing about closing a school, I wouldn't want any school to be closed. But in effect, when it comes to Wheatley or all of HISD, some of the Wheatley alumni are going to be upset at me. But we'd have to close Wheatley.
But that means you get to keep the rats.
Look, TEA messed up when they took over North Forest. They didn't
Speak
care.
on.
They didn't care at all. So now North Forest is a part of HISD. Now, if they take over Wheatley and Wheatley has grown, then they're not going to hold on to it because they don't want to fail. They are not familiar enough with Black communities where they could do well with Wheatley. They're going to take it over and they're going to give it back.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. The way it's set up right now, with what I know, Wheatley is going to go back into failure status this year. I may be wrong, but a lot of times I'm not. North Forest will fail this year. Yates will fail this year. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, like at Yates, because that's my school, I have a principal over there screaming for resources, and nobody will give her anything to work with. So basically, she just needs to show up, open the school every morning, and just run it with what she got. Well, that doesn't put us in a position to succeed.
Nope.
You see what I'm saying? And I would, when I look at it like that, if it's my decision, I'm going to take over the school district. I'm going to take over the school district because Wheatley should not have failed if they did what they were supposed to do to help those kids. I also believe that I'm sick and tired of seeing these yellow school buses in front of my schools, picking up my kids to take them to the west side of town to get a decent education. It's time to invest in the schools in our communities. But you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. You feel what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
took over North Forest. And at this moment, the crime rate in North Forest is 153% higher than the national average. Because when you get to playing with these schools and you get to closing these schools, you make the crime rate go up.
You know what? None of them are trying to do right by the schools that are in these communities. We sit up here and we talk about it, uh, talk about Wheatley. They instituted everything. If you realize, back in 2005, they decentralized HISD and they put old principals at the more affluent schools and they put young principals at the at-risk schools to make sure that they fail. And then HISD started uh, uh, the turnover rate in the at-risk communities, the brown and black communities, started to go up. So this was part of their recipe to take over schools or to cause a change or allow that community to be a prime target for charter schools. Now you got all these young principals that don't know what to do, and they still put young principals there. Now they have a hybrid version of centralization so that they can put a band-aid on the bleeding that's already happened. Forget the band-aid, let's heal what the problem is. But they're not going to heal the problem. So, like I said in the beginning, there's enough blame to go around from Abbott on to the politicians that we have in office now in these brown and black communities. They're benefiting from it. So, because I'm an optimist and I'm an educator, I believe even if they took over the whole district, they would give it back at the beginning of the school year because they can't afford to fail in front of all of the people in the state of Texas.
Well, they're going to fail in front of the people in the state of Texas, and I think that they, if they have to put in a board of managers, I don't know how you can even put 9 people up there and don't put Larry McKenzie and Gary Monroe. I don't understand how you can do that when we clearly know what needs to be done. The one thing I applaud you on, and that's, you kind of led the way, you and Travis and even my man Art Smith. When I looked at them 3 brothers, they were always at their schools. And I was always at mine, but I wasn't in the game. So once I got in the game, I kind of just, as many days people don't know you didn't pull my coattail to make me let somebody make it. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know you didn't talk me off that ledge many days. I mean, even when I was banned from the school district, you, Larry, Art, never abandoned me like a lot of these other people did. You stuck with me. And that's why every time you call me or I call you, we seem to show up for each other. You see what I'm saying? We seem to show up for each other because that's loyalty to the game. And I don't think that you can go get a whole bunch of people, like Scott McClellan from HEB. Say, man, you sell potatoes and canned goods. Why the hell you got your mind? Why you all up in this school business, man? Because this shit make a lot of money. And everybody making money off of it. So whether the people know it or not, we talking about charters. You can't put a charter school in our neighborhood unless the state rep agrees to put it there.
That's right.
So a lot of these charters every single charter that's in a black community had to be approved by a state rep to come into our communities. But like you say, you go to the west side, you ain't finna see no church on every corner. You ain't finna see no liquor store on every corner. And you ain't finna see no charter schools because they don't want them in their communities. We don't have traditional feeder patterns anymore. We're struggling with feeder patterns. I don't know in your district, but I know in Yates, we got a whole bunch of elementaries and 1 middle school. 1. So Yates got to get their whole population of kids basically from 1 middle school. You feel what I'm saying? And that makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. So instead of building an energy high school, which is less than a mile away from Yates, why didn't you build us another middle school? You took our middle school, which was Ryan. You took, and you know what's crazy, Larry? Everybody talking about you got to rebuild these schools. That's the same school that was built as the initial Jack Yates, Ryan Baylor College of Medicine. But as long as the black kids were in there, You wouldn't put no resources. You wouldn't put nothing to make the school go. But as soon as you kicked them out, you gave that school every piece of technology it needs. Now it's one of the better performing schools in the country. They created something when they closed Ryan. They created a gang culture. So if you coming in here, TEA, talking about closing these schools, you better know what come with it. Because they ain't got to establish the gangs no more. They already rocking and rolling, partner. It's going to be a whole bunch of murder cases if you get to talking about, well, we're going to close addicts. We're going to send them all over to Cullen. Shit. It's finna be a whole bunch of murder cases because it ain't going to go like they think. Now, at your old high school, I think I called you and told you. They closed Jones. Now they're talking about reopening Jones. So where you going to get the kids from? They're going to try to take half of Sterling's population. How you feel about that?
Well, I tell you what, they always creatively redraw the attendance zones. And they would redraw it close to the way it used to be. And that would draw most of it and part of it from Milby and Chavez. But exactly what you said is, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, that when they closed Ryan and they had all of the kids to go to Cullen, and every year at the game, sometimes there would be fights. Now kids were fighting to get off the bus from Third Ward to go to Cullen, which is in the affectionate community called Yellowstone, across the street from some projects. So they don't care about how poorly we do. They just want to make sure that their kids do well. So exactly what you say, if TEA comes in and they're talking about closing schools, eventually it's going to reach up the chain and some of their kids are going to get caught up. And bullets don't have, you can't put a steering wheel on a bullet. And they don't understand because you know where I live and I know where you live. And I advocate for the people that live in my community.
Exactly.
So if they come in and they're talking about closing schools, then they got another thing coming. And and what you said about Jones, they helped change the landscape and the people that live in that portion of South Park. When they rebuilt Milby and all of the students were bused to Jones, and now they're bused to the new Milby. They're ready to draw the attendance zone, the lines again. And as a matter of fact, they're actually looking to see which trustee would be represent that community, and they're voting on it. So, everything that you're saying, and if you just watch it and see what's going on, all of the good programs are being placed in the affluent communities, and all of the at-risk communities are losing their good programs. So it goes to say the same thing, and they're helping create the education desert, which will cause for people to leave those communities, and those communities will be revamped by the the new people coming in. And hopefully everybody realizes first what happens is it's like a bucket. They fill the inside of 610. Then they fill everything all the way out to Beltway 8. Then they'll fill everything out to 99. But if you can't afford, you don't have a job, you don't have a career, then you won't be able to afford to live within 610 where maybe your grandmother or your grandfather already had a house, or within Beltway 8 where most people are being pushed. Because those people that went to Missouri City and Sugarland and Stafford are getting tired of driving in. Pearland, they're getting tired of driving in. They want a short drive. And that means you got to push the people out that's already in there. So if your community is within 610 and you brown and black and you don't have a job, be prepared to move further out because you're going to get pushed out.
Well, it's been an honor for 14 years to fight with you, my friend. And some days I know I go to that ledge. But the one thing that you got a good attribute about you is talking me off that ledge, or either pulling my coattail. Now you need to do it a different way. And that calm demeanor of yours kind of calms me down. But it's been an honor and a pleasure to fight with you for 14 years. And I still got a lot of years left in me to get out. I still got a lot of years left in me. And I applaud you for almost 30 years of being one of the best science teachers in this school district. There's no questions about it. I run into kids that know you, that have graduated, and they speak so highly of you. Kids that had no clue that science could be as fun as it is. And these are the type of teachers that we need, teachers that have passions. I'm not saying that teachers coming straight out of college don't have the passion. I'm just saying that the ones that are coming out of college, straight out of college, if they're black, they're going to go to Cullen. They're going to go to North Forest. They're going to go to Yates. They're going to go to the toughest schools. But if they're white, and I know this because I've sat in HR in the summer just to sit up in there, the white teachers are going to go to West Side. They're going to go to Lamar. They give them time to develop. And our brand new teachers go up under the gun, and before you know it, they get in conference for the records. They trying to get them out saying they can't teach. It's not that they can't teach. You won't let them teach. That start testing really messed everything up, and it ain't nothing but $100 million a year money grab.
That's right.
Because when you go to college, they're not asking you for a start test score. They're asking you for a SAT and a ACT. You feel what I'm saying? But I think if a kid graduate, then you take the college entrance exam and you see if where this kid is. But it's too many of our children that are graduating with 4.0s, and then they show up at Prairie View and they got to take all these remedial courses. You see what I'm saying? How many times have we seen that? So it's been an honor and a pleasure to fight with you. We got some work to do, man. We ain't gonna never stop doing the work until God calls us home. That's just how it is with us. And
you know what, Gary? I'm gonna let you know, and I'm glad that you're in the fight. I don't fight the way you fight. I'm doing kung fu, you doing karate. But the whole thing is every now and then you need somebody to hit somebody in the mouth just straight out the street. And I applaud you for hitting a couple of people in the mouth and kicking them in the groin and doing what you got to do what you got to do. So it's hey, like I said, I'm glad that you're here and everybody talk about how it should be done. But if you're gonna talk about how it should be done, then go ahead and do what you're doing and show me your fighting style. Because most of the people that are talking, they're not fighting. And most of the people that are fighting, they're not talking.
You know what's crazy? I think you remember the very first board meeting I went to. And that was when Yates needed band uniforms.
Yep.
I didn't go in there disrespectful. I didn't go in there and talk crazy to those people. But I've also felt that when I went in there, they ignored me. And I'm not going to be ignored. Not when it comes to making sure that kids have what they need. And if I got to punch you in your mouth, that's what it's going to be. And punching folks in the mouth, not literally, good people. That means I'm finna give you the business. That means I'm finna give you the business. Now, Karita Cheeks has a question. She says, Larry, what are your thoughts on teachers being assigned to schools that's in need of teachers?
Well, you have to realize that HISD has an agenda. And their agenda, they'll have a contract with somebody like Teach for America, or decided, I think this year they decided that they were going to hire more people from the University of Houston. Now, when teachers are assigned, they need to put people there to help those teachers that are assigned to do well, instead of just leaving them out there to struggle to do the job that they've been hired to do. So, oftentimes when you see these young teachers, and most of the time they're not brown or black, and they're at schools, they're trying the best that they can do. But you got to realize that the administrators, and I call them kids now, the ones that are 34 and 35, don't have much life experience. So they are made to treat these teachers a certain way, and oftentimes they'll get them out of the system. They'll give them a 1 or a 2 on the way that they teach and the way that they approach the kids, and then all of a sudden they're out of education, or they'll move to a different district. And most of the teachers that are in other districts have benefited from HISD not trying to make sure that their teachers do well as they continue in this profession. So yeah, the assignment is what you can't pick a good teacher if you're a principal that hadn't really taught in a class or hadn't really taught at this type of school. And I say we need to go back to you have to teach for 2 to 3 years before you become an AP. You got to be an AP for 5 to 7 years before you become a principal. It makes a difference. But you just throwing 8 principals in there and they've never taught. As a matter of fact, I think that was 2007, 2008, where you didn't even have to be in the classroom before you became a principal. So all of this was part of the design. It was designed for our schools to fail. So you have to really pay attention. And when you pay attention, you realize that this is not by happenstance. This is not, it just happened. So you realize we got to mentor teachers. We have to mentor teachers. We got to reach out to the community. We have to do all of that stuff. Everything that you want for your child, then you need to help the teachers that are there so that they can be good teachers.
Well, here's one last question. I think you make 5 figures a year. How do you feel about the superintendent secretary, August Hamilton, who used to make ID cards at Yates about 3 to 4 years ago? You make 5 figures a year as a teacher. But August is the secretary, brings coffee to Millard House. And August is making 6 figures, high 6 figures. How you feel about that?
You do realize that all of my life I've stayed at least pretty much a mile and a half away from Yates. And let me tell you something. I'm still asking for the monies that were owed to me. I used to teach at CEP for 3 years, and HISD doesn't even recognize my 3 years at CEP, where I was teaching HISD kids for the benefit of my pay. So if what you say is true, you have somebody who's a glorified ID badge maker. And I used to make ID badges at Cullen, and they're making 6 figures. And I'm begging and pleading for a stipend for teaching that secondary DAP. It goes to show the misplaced priorities that HISD has. And some of those people need to be replaced. And some of those people need to go into the classroom. We got teachers missing. Tell you what, let's divide their money up and put them in the classroom so we can deal and help the students. We should always put the students first.
I want to thank you for taking time out. I know it was last minute when I called you, but I think the people benefited from your insight tonight. And I appreciate you taking time out to come on. Any last words you want to tell the people?
Hey, vote for people that are already doing the job. Don't vote for people that promise that they're going to give you the world and they haven't shown you the world. When it comes to education, what's most important are our children. Realize that in 20 to 30 years, they'll be the one that's running the world. So if you got kids that can't read and can't write cursive, then that's part of your fault. So we need to make sure that we follow up. And half of being an adult or half of being a parent is just being there.
Well, one last question from Bianca Robinson. What are you guys' thoughts on putting children labeled as special needs in class with normal children? The district is calling it inclusion. Where's the label coming from and who decides this? I'm confused.
Yeah.
That actually is happening at your school, am I correct?
yeah, it's happening. And realize that when I started teaching, I started off in a back classroom. I was a substitute teacher for a back class. So it's the type of thing uh, is misplaced priorities. You take a look at Harper DAP, which I'm not at that school, but you got a principal over there that doesn't understand special education and inclusion. I understand the whole premise that you don't want people to be ostracized, and we can't go back to what we used to be, where it was just one room in the back of the school, and all of the students that were either in resource or any type of exceptional education program were placed in that room. And everybody that's my age and that's 50 plus understand what I'm talking about. And if we're really going to do the inclusion, that means we have to give money for those uh, teachers to come in and co-teach. And when they come in and co-teach, they don't have to just co-teach the students that are special ed students. They go in and co-teach all of it. The only surefire way to quell behavior in the classroom, the only surefire way to raise test scores, the only surefire way to make sure our kids learn is to lower the student to teacher ratio and that put another grown person in the room. And then what you do is you teach them other courses that are actually life skills, which are like trades, which you've already taken out of the at-risk communities or the black and brown communities. So if you really were trying to do really help the special ed population, then you would not only help the student, but you would help the parents. And the whole wraparound thing is just a buzzword. SEL has been thrown out the window. So if you really want to do something, stick to what you was promised. And that goes all the way up to federal. If you really want to do something, stick to the Constitution. That goes to the state. If you really want to do something, stick to the state constitution where everyone is equal and everything is equitable and everything. Do all of that. But since I know we're not about to do that, so we'll just piecemeal it and make it the best where we are.
Well, to answer Robin's question, Miss Bianca's question, I think it's a safety issue. You should not have our special need population kids on a campus with kids that have criminal issues. A lot of these kids, some of these kids have criminal issues.
Yeah, they're
And
felons.
yeah, they're felons. I mean, they should not be on the campus with them. It's not a safe environment. And whoever made that decision should be thrown in the depths of hell because that makes no sense at all. But a lot of things HISD does on a daily basis don't make sense. Like a secretary making more money than a teacher just because they're the secretary for the superintendent. It makes no sense at all. You know, pulling people out the central office that don't have certifications to go and sit in our classrooms and act like they're teaching our children, but yet they don't have the certifications to do it. So that means they're giving grades that they honestly should not be given. So it's a lot of things that are going on that should not be going on. And, you know, me and my friend, Larry McKenzie, will differ on a state takeover. But I think that they need to come on in here and exterminate these rats and be done with it. And I believe in my heart that if there is a state takeover, God's going to take us through hell to get us back to heaven. But I don't think we'll ever see heaven again. I don't think that we'll see it. I think that we're going to have to deal with this until, you know, I know until God calls me home, I won't be able to see the district be able to rebound from this. So I'm not saying don't take it over. I'm saying take it over. It's too much that then went on. And it's too much that's going to go on if you don't get these rats out the building. I want to thank Larry McKenzie for taking the time out to come and hang out with me tonight, man. You know you're welcome back anytime you want to come on. And I think as soon as this happens, the Warzone is going to be flooded with teachers and administrators and folks that want to voice their opinions. But your time to voice your opinion has passed. Your time to stand up and say enough is enough has passed because now we're in the skin that we're in. I want you to make sure there will be no Warzone tomorrow. But starting next week, man, I got my man, the cussing pastor, Pastor Thaddeus Matthews coming on. And for those that like a good politician that got some balls, the following week, I got my man, Eric Mays from Flint, Michigan, city council member. And if you ain't never saw his videos, he go viral every time he go sit in city council. He gonna be here. And the good thing about it, what he told me, it applies to Larry and it applies to Gary Monroe. Eric Mays told me, say, I ran 14 times before I got in. He said, but I wasn't going to stop running until I got in so I could help my people. So if y'all think I'm going to stop running or Larry's going to stop running, not going to happen. Because sooner or later, they're going to slip up and put one of us in there. They're going to put one of us in there. So in 24, I'm embarking on a mission. I'm running against Rodney Ellis. They say that's a whole lot of mountain to climb. Well, I ain't got nothing else to do but climb that mountain. But think about it. When I win, you already know business gonna pick up like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Ain't gonna be no games being played. So you guys, y'all take it easy. And until Monday, with my good friend Dr. Ken Davis, who was an assistant superintendent in HISD, he'll be here Monday. We're gonna have another spirited conversation. Until then, I'll holler at you.